data in a whole range of classes. And so what we're going to be doing today is a shortened version of our usual workshop. It's going to be only an hour for various constraints that we have. But during this time, you're going to hear a little bit about the Social Science Data Analysis Network at the University of Michigan, where we've tried to put together data sets and course modules to be used in undergraduate classes, not just statistics classes or demography classes, but a whole range of classes, given the broad range of data that the American Community Survey and Census has. That'll be followed with a presentation by Mark Mather of the Population Reference Bureau, well known for all of the kinds of good accessible information about population and demography, and they do an awful lot of information that can be used in your classroom as well. And Mark's going to talk all about that. And then finally, Andy Beveridge of Social Explorer, well known for this very easy to use and powerful mapping tool with other kinds of information available. He'll take up the majority of time in this workshop, and well deserved, because you know, it's a very important tool. If you haven't used it, you're certainly going to get a good taste of what's going on here, and we're going to continue sort of after this workshop. You'll be able to go back and forth with Andy, and in fact with all of us, to work with our projects. But we're going to begin by talking about the Social Science Data Analysis Network, and I'm going to introduce John DeWitt, JP DeWitt of the Michigan Project, to say a little bit about the ACS and how you can use it in the classroom. And with a little luck, we'll be able to try to do some demonstrations of using our website, which is ssdan.net. So JP, I'll pass the baton over to you.
Sure, thank you, Bill. We hope that many of you already know a bit about the American Community Survey, so I will keep this relatively short. But one of the things we go. For those of you who are not familiar with the American Community Survey, it is kind of the descendant of the decennial census long form. It produces different data products for a wide range of geographies and on a wide range of topics. There's a sample of approximately 3.5 million addresses each year. And the data products that come out are available as either one-year data products that are for selected larger geographies, and 5-year data for all geographies. So if you're interested in what types of topics are covered by the American Community Survey, here's kind of a more of a laundry list. More recently, some of the topics that have been added are on this list is field of degree. So these are for at the person level. For persons, for housing, there are some questions that now ask about internet and computer access. Those have been, I think, about 7 years now on the American Community Survey. But you can see that there's a wide range of topics covered, and that's one of the reasons why we think it's a really useful survey for analyzing a wide range of courses. The American Community Survey data are also available for a wide range of geographies. So some of those are the legal and administrative areas like states, cities, counties, etc. But there are a wide range of statistical areas that are defined really particularly for the census. So you'll hear people talking about things like census tracts, census blocks, block groups, PUMAs. We'll talk a little bit about those today, but for the most part, we're hoping, and I'm sure that Andy will be talking a lot about those in Social Explorer, but we're going to talk a little bit for data counts. Bill is going to be talking about some of the products that we have and the wide range of courses for which our data are useful. So with that, I'll hand things off to Bill. Bill, I'm happy to go ahead and sort of drive if you'd like me to pull up SSDAN, but you can talk about how to actually analyze some of the ACS data from within SSTAN's data counts product.
Let me try to see if I can share the screen first. Give me like 10 seconds. If it doesn't work, we'll come back to you, okay? Let's see what I can do here, if possible. Okay, can we see that?
Looks good.
Okay, so this is our SSTAN website, sstan.net, and you can see we have a lot of materials on here, course modules, data sets, lists of our events, and many other things. But what I want to get into is a demonstration of how you can use our data sets to do an exercise in your undergraduate classes. And data counts, we click on this tab that says data counts. Essentially what we've done is taken census data and ACS data and put it in a form that you can use in terms of two-way tables, three-way tables, contingency table analysis. Simple enough so that students who've never had a statistics course, just taking a substantive course, whether it be in demography, whether it be on social stratification, labor force, whatever, can get their hands on the data and play with the data. And that's our basic idea. So we have, if you look in the left side here, we have modules that other people have developed that you can download and use yourself. We have frequently asked questions. You can submit your own module, but the meat of this is a thing called WebChip. It's a long history of why it's called WebChip, but it's basically to allow you to look at census data in simple ways. I'm going to demonstrate an analysis which simply tries to get at the idea of gender differences in earnings with a very simple example of what happens with doctors in the United States. So I'm just going to go through here. We have various different collections you can see we have for different years and so forth. I'm going to go down here and look at something that's called ACS 18 1 year. This is from the 2018 American Community Survey 1 year file. And I'm going to look for a data set called doctors. I click that up there. And this is just, we downloaded and we extracted all the people who said they were physicians in the United States. And what we're going to try to do here is make some simple tables. And the question is, do women make less money than men in the doctor field or in the physician field? And like many of other data sets, we only have a couple of variables. We don't want students to get confused. Like if you're using SPSS or SAS, there's dozens, hundreds of variables. We don't want to have that. This is for like early entry data analysis for students. So we simply have an age variable, a race variable, an earnings variable, and a sex variable. You can compute the marginals here, and you can see from the marginals that okay, I'm having trouble with this screen because I have trying to get. All right. In any event, you'll see the marginals there. But the main idea is to make two-way tables. To what degree are men who are in the physicians making less money, making more money than women? And we can make a simple table. You can choose the row variable. In this case, we'll say sex. We'll choose a column variable, and this will say earnings. And then we can percent across. And what you can see here on this percentage across is that among all the doctors, you can see the incomes go down from 40,000 and below up to 250,000 and above. About 45% of men doctors make 250,000 or above. Only 28% of female doctors make that case. Well, you might say maybe this has something to do with cohorts or something like that. And so you might want to control the thing by age, which will give you a crude idea what cohorts are. And now we can percent across, and what it will create is different tables for different age groups. This one here is for the first one here is for the 25 to 34 age group, and among these folks, men doctors 10% make over 250,000 a year. Women doctors about 8%. So it's pretty close. But as you move up to the older age, and of course you could look at the whole distribution. I'm doing this to save a little time. When you get up to this age 45 to 45 to 54 doctors, 62% of the men make over 250,000. Only 39% of the women. You can also with this make charts. So we have something called stacked bars. I think the stack bars one will work here. Whoops. Well, let's try the regular bars. The regular bars will show that for a given age group, Oops, we've got this all wrong. I have to get out of this, I guess. A given age group, you have a different distribution. In this case, the 55 to 64 doctors, much higher number of men make the higher income category than of women. Anyhow, we have a lot of other opportunities to make graphics and so forth. So this is a very simple example. We have hundreds of data sets. Some of them allow you to look at trends over time, back from the 1950 census up to the most recent census. Well, not 2020, but we'll have that up in another year or two, but up to the most recent ACS. To look at shifts over time and aspects of immigration, labor force change, gender differences in earnings, all of these kinds of things. And the idea is that it's so easy to use that students who've never had any statistical courses can try to figure out how to get into this data in an easy way. We have other aspects of data analysis on our site as well, some of it having to do with maps and so forth, and a lot of other details about instructional tips, not only from people on our staff over the years, but a lot of the people who contributed to our webinars and our workshops. So that's just a little bit of a taste. Go to ssdan.net. Look at WebChip and play around with some of our data sets, and feel free to ask us questions. So that's a little bit of an overview of the SSDAN website. Now I'm going to turn things over to Mark, who's going to talk about the Population Reference Bureau's resources.
Great, thanks, Bill. Let me get my screen set up here. One second. Okay, are you able to see that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. Well, I'll be pretty brief. I'm Mark Mather. I'm with the Population Reference Bureau. For those of you who don't know PRB, we have a long history of providing population-related information to non-technical audiences. We consider ourselves data people, at least in our US programs department. And we're mostly known for our world population data sheet, I think, our population bulletins, but we also produce and manipulate and analyze a lot of data and repackage it. So some of you may have heard of the NE Casey Foundation's Kids Count project. That's a project that we've been working in partnership with Casey for probably close to 30 years now, so close to the beginning of that project. And really in everything that we do, we consider ourselves translators and distillers of demographic concepts and data. So there's kind of a natural fit between the work that PRB does and I think the work that teachers are doing in the classroom. And it makes our materials useful for, especially for introductory courses on population-related issues. So I just want to briefly show some of the resources on our website that may be useful here. And for each of these resources, I have provided a link at the bottom of the page. So I assume we can share these presentations with you all, and you can click on the links at the bottom if you want to find additional information. So this is our website where you can find our interactive world population data sheet, which is still our most popular product. We've been producing it, I think, since the 1960s, maybe the mid 60s. 2020 was an unusual year. It was the first year we didn't actually print a copy of the data sheet. I think it was available to print on demand. So it was all digital last year, but it's a nice resource for students, I think, because they can go online with the interactive version and they can compare key demographic indicators across a range of different across all of the countries in the world. So it can be good for learning about some of those basic patterns across different countries and across different regions. And we have a YouTube channel, and I think a lot of teachers, professors have shown some of these videos on our YouTube channel in introductory courses. We have a series called Distilled Demographics. And some of these are a little dated now, but the concepts I think are timeless. Some of you may remember Carl Halb. He was our distinguished demographer at PRB. He retired a few years ago, but he still has there's some great videos that he had produced on some key demographic topics and concepts that are all available here online. The most popular one is how many people have ever lived on Earth. That's always the number one resource that people come to PRB to come to our website for. I think we have over 200,000 views for that video by now. Then we have our population bulletin series, which remain popular and are still used pretty widely in undergraduate and graduate courses. We don't produce as many bulletins. For those of you who are members, I'm sure you've noticed that we don't produce as many of these as we used to. That was not my decision, but we still have the series going, and you can go online and access most of these back to 1995 for free. They're available for download. So for example, there's one we produced in June of 2019, what to expect from the 2020 census results. And so now at this point, we can start to see how we did with our predictions, but still a lot more data that will be released in the coming months and years. There's also a bulletin that we just released in January. It's called Population and Introduction to Demography. And this is modeled after an earlier one. I think it was called Population: A Lively Introduction, which was always one of our most popular bulletins. And so I suggested that we do an update. We were due for an update. And the unfortunate part of this one is that this one is, they're now charging for it online. So if you go to the website, you'll see that there's an option to purchase this PDF. But again, that wasn't my decision. And you should feel free to email me if you would like a copy, and I'll be happy to send a PDF version of this document to you. I think it's a useful one, especially for an introductory course on demography. Next, we have something called our Prb Data Center, which was recently revamped. We used to have hundreds of indicators on here, mostly from the American Community Survey. And it was getting a little bit cumbersome, and we didn't want to just replicate what the Census Bureau was showing on their, it was American Fact Finder at the time, now data.census.gov website. So we really pared down the list of indicators, and we now have about 20 key social, economic, demographic indicators that are available at the state level and at the county level where those data are available. And the nice thing about this is, these are the data shown here for 2019, the percent of the population ages 65 and older. But you can also click to go back for earlier years to look at those displays. You can also show the data in tabular format, or you can show it in terms of line trends. And then finally, I would encourage those who are interested in the American Community Survey to, if you're not already a member of our ACS Data Users Group online community. This is a group that we started almost 10 years ago now. We have over 3,000 members, and this is a site where we get a lot of novice users coming here who are new to the ACS. It is a fairly complex survey. So we have novice users who are posting questions about how to access the data and understand the data. But then we also have some fairly advanced expert users who post here about more complex methodological issues. So typically when people do post to the discussion forum, there's usually a response same day, often within a few minutes. So it's really been a good group for sharing information, questions, resources related to the ACS. So all of the materials here are free to, you don't need to join in order to view the materials, but if you wanted to post a question or a comment, then you do need to actually become a member to do that. Also on this website, you can access webinars that recordings of webinars that we've held, as well as links to Census Bureau webinars, and then conference materials. So we have now, in partnership with the Census Bureau, we've organized, I think, for 2014, 15, 17, and 19, 4 ACS data users conferences. And we have our 5th conference coming up in less than 2 weeks. So that's going to be May. You can see on there's a link to it here right on the ACS community, online community homepage. It's going to be May 18th to the 20th. It is free to register for that and attend that conference. So if you're interested, we still do have some slots available, and I encourage you to go online, and even if you just want to participate in some of the plenary sessions, which are going to be, we're going to have some senior Census Bureau staff participating in those plenaries. And also Andy Beveridge, he's one of the people presenting at that conference. So that's an added incentive for folks to attend. But feel free to click on the link here at the bottom of the page, acsdatacommunity.prb.org, if you want to learn more about that. And that's all I've got. I'm happy to answer questions. Probably offline would be best, just given our time constraints. My email is here, and I'll be happy to talk with you further. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mark. Really appreciate all that information, and I know people will be eager to get back to you, and as well as interested in that conference that will be in a couple weeks, which is a very valuable conference about the ACS. So now we'll turn it over to Andy Beveridge, who will talk about Social Explorer. This is a very rich resource, and I'm eager myself to see some of the new tricks and tools that Andy is coming up with. So it's up to you, Andy.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to try to get I've got, just so everyone knows, I'm going to give a very brief overview of Social Explorer, and then Jeff Hahn is with me, who I now see a picture of. Jeff has been working with us to basically market Social Explorer into the academic. We usually go to library markets, and we're in several hundred institutions. My own suspicion is that most people who are attending today actually have access to Social Explorer. If you don't have access to Social Explorer, we can work out. We're quite open to having what the heck, how do I get the slideshow? Anyway, oh, there it is. Hold on. There we go. Whoops. All right. So anyway, we're actually a software company now. We started as an NSF project, and NSF at the time we started up was very interested in the idea of sustainability, and by that they did not mean the environment. They meant money, because the theory was that they didn't want to have to constantly fund people. So they were hoping that some of the projects that they funded spun out to a point where they wouldn't necessarily have to fund them anymore. And so we incorporated, I think it was in 2007, we started licensing the use of Social Explorer to libraries. The Social Explorer kind of grew like topsy. We started out as a demonstration project, and with NSF, they call it a concept demonstration project. Then we moved from there, which was actually to put the New York census data up from 1910. We found that New York City had census data that started in 1910 and went all the way up to, at that time, it would have been we were waiting for the 2000 data to come out. So they funded us in 99. We created materials that mapped the 1910 census up through the 1990 census with maps, and then we kind of then moved, but it was mostly New York because we're from New York. So you know, people are from New York. They're very New York centric. We're like New York nationalists, I suppose you could say. So then a friend of mine was working. David Halley was working in LA. He actually was a bi-coastal professor. He would fly every week from New York to LA, teach in LA, and then fly back. So we decided we're doing a book on New York and LA. We decided to try to add material, demographic material. So that's when we added LA. And then then the National Science Digital Library came along. So then we decided that since we were using census data, we could go national. And that's really kind of turned us around. And since then, we've had other grants from NSF, and but we decided to try to become self-sustaining as a corporation, which has worked fairly well. I mean, I'd say the results are still coming in, but that's kind of where we are. So we have our own IT, we have our own like developers, we have people that handle data, all that sort of thing. And as I said, we're at about 400, I think it's around 400 universities and colleges. So what do we have? We have a lot. We have, we basically have all of the extant digital censuses from 1790 through the ACS, the latest ACS, which is the 2015 to 19 and the 2019 1 year. And we put it up entirely. We put everything up, and then we also take a selection of it. So basically it's possible to, and then our big thing, the thing that really got us moving was that we merged it with mapping. Because one of the things we found is that before the advent of GIS, if people wanted to say, look up their own neighborhood, it was like a real project, especially over time. And so we were, we basically set it up so we would use GIS with the mapping, and then with the NSF funding, first we did CDs and then we went out to the web. And so we have all available tabulated data from 1790. There's actually, that's not completely true because we don't have what's called SF4 now has another name, but it's basically the very, very detailed race ethnic data. We have the American Community Survey starting in 2005 and up to date. We have election data, and actually we're working on having a uniform set of election data all the way back to 1790. We're working with someone from Colby College for that, but we have the current data from David Leap, and we now have a license agreement with David Leap, so people can use that as well. We have population estimates, FBI crime report. We have the special tabulation of the citizen of voting age, which is actually from the ACS. We have U.S. business patterns, which are currently getting up. We have the religious congregation membership study. That's done every 10 years. It tries to mirror the census. You know, the U.S. Census doesn't ask religion. The number one question that people always ask, like, where's religion? They don't, the answer is the census doesn't ask it. The UK census does, and so does the Australian census, and so does the Canadian census. And the interesting thing was, I think the first time they, you know, one of the years that they asked it, it turned out the number 6 religion in all 3 countries was Jedi Knight. And what had happened was there had been an internet campaign to get all of the Star Wars people to put down Jedi Knight. And then in Britain, they were trying to figure out if they had to put it in the table. You know, like, because when you publish a table, the religion, it was number 6. I think it was somewhere around Hindu. So they decided, despite the fact that it was so popular a response, they wouldn't publish it at the table. But the religious congregation membership survey is done by a group called the Association of Statisticians of Religious Bodies, and it tries to get membership information, and it tries and congregation information from all religious bodies in the United States. It misses the Muslims and the Mormons quite seriously, but it's something. I mean, there's always a problem with asking a group how many members do you have, because there's a tendency to brag and be a little high. We also have data up from the carbon emissions data. We recently put up flood maps. We actually support satellite mapping. And then we now have international data. We have the UK census of Ireland, and we have the Canadian census up, and we will update those. We have Eurostat, and then most recently we have a contract with Bosnia to put the Bosnian census up, and another contract with and I think it's bilingual. Jeff may know, with the Center for Demography in Spain, and we're putting up data with them. So that's like our data. And then in terms of our technology, it's client-based, it's map rendering, it's cloud-based, so you can run it on any browser. We're now using HTML5 with WebGL, and we do have embedded maps available on smaller devices. So here's an example of a map. And the thing about it is that the maps are pre-canned, but there are lots and lots and lots of them. I mean, we were trying to figure out how many maps we actually have. And I think that one of the problems that I think Bill brought up about the American Community Survey, which I think is the data, the best, it is like the premier data source for the United States, because it took over what the census used to call the long form, and it has lots and lots and lots of data, where the census only has a few variables these days. It has race, age, Hispanic status. It has a household inventory. It has whether, it has some limited data on the housing, but the U.S. Census is like the benchmark that's used for benchmarking everything, but the ACS has all the other information, immigration, and education, income, the kinds of things that Bill was showing about income and gender is not on the census. Immigration is not on the census. What is on the census is very simple data. They call it Take 10, but it's actually only 7 questions. And and I would strongly urge people that are using the ACS to join the PRB's ACS user group. I don't think Mark mentioned it was free, but it's actually free to join. And the conference now is also free. And so you could, pop in and you'll learn a lot. He was mentioning the plenary sessions. Those are kind of like the basic sessions. Then there's some more nerd-like sessions, some of which I have given. So you can pick and choose, but you would learn a lot, and it's the people that go there are very, very knowledgeable. They've used it across a wide array of things, including lots of sort of public service, public things. I looked at the program. It's very interesting how people are using the ACS to look at vulnerability to COVID, stuff like that. And then, so our mapping system, you get to zoom in. Here's DC. And you can map many, many different variables. In fact, if you go deep, you can map virtually any census variable we support. And this is like the dot density map. And then here is, I don't know if this is going to work, but here's like we could do side by side. We did have an animated GIF. I don't think it's working. And This is an overlay map that I think is using, on the left is blacks, on the right is median household income. The underlay, I believe, is a satellite image. So there's lots of different mapping possibilities. We also support reporting, downloading into your favorite GIS or favorite statistical package. We now have tremendous number of geodatabases up. We don't have blocks, but we have, I think, virtually all the census geographies except blocks. We actually support mapping blocks, interestingly enough, from our system. And, oh, here it is. Yeah, this is our sliding map. This is an animated GIF. So on the left, you have blacks, and on the right, you did two different time periods. And as you go across, you can see, I mean, this is a GIF of something a feature that we have. So it goes across, it goes from, got to read this, from 1980 to 2016. So you can see, like, this is New York, you can see the concentration of Black population in New York is declining. That's Harlem up there in the, up in sort of the midsection. So I think now I should turn it over to Jeff, who will talk about our new system where we now have developed modules that people can use in classroom, and these come with the system. Jeff, are you up? I see you.
Oh yeah, I'm up.
I meant your slide.
I'm ready to go. Thank you, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today. So what we've been doing at Social Explorer is developing what we call teach and learn modules. And so what these offer is zero cost options for faculty and students when the library adopts Social Explorer. So what I'll show you, what these are examples of what you and your students can do with Social Explorer at the undergraduate level. Modules can be used as they've been developed, or they can be modified as you see fit. And they focus on traditional undergraduate courses. And the topics focus on social justice issues, critical thinking, and the modules can be used as a lecture enhancement, as a group project, as homework. And we offer LMS integration with our content. And we also offer assessment content as well that can be used with the modules. So if you look at these, you can make an immediate impact in courses like American Studies, Health Science, Political Science, Black Studies, Education, Business and Economics, Criminal Justice, History, Social Justice, Sociology. And we're developing quite a bit of support content around it as well. And so, for example, we have this really nice new LibGuide that all customers receive that by topic show you how you can integrate. So here we're looking at sociology, social justice, social work, how to integrate Social Explorer into traditional introductory courses, how students can log in, all types of pre-built maps that we've curated in advance, all types of modules. So let me show you what the modules look like. So this is Social Explorer, and this is under Explore Maps. This is where you would traditionally go in and build your own maps and create content as you see fit. Oh, let's see, I'm having a little bit of, my computer's slow. We'll give it 1 second. And so that's the Explore Maps section. But here under Teach and Learn, we have pre-built a series of modules in traditional course areas that you can integrate into your courses. So if you look under subject, you can see we built them for American government, business, consumer behavior, criminal justice, education, entrepreneurship, environmental science, management, marketing, nonprofit management, psychology, public health, research methods, various sociology areas, social justice, social problems, intro to social, even US history, Texas government, geography, urban social. And so we've built these out as a way for faculty to bring real data into the classroom for their students, because students come to class at the introductory level and they have a sense that the social sciences are opinion and not science. And so we bring in the real world data and we focus it on traditional topics within that course area. So if I go here, you can see we have 10 lecture launchers that are developed for American government, focused on gerrymandering, diversity in America, and so forth. We have them for business, consumer behavior. And so here's an example. We're looking at, this is an example of a module in urban growth patterns. And so this module examines the famous concentric zone model. It focuses on Chicago, and the students and the faculty can work through this module together. And so here we're using a census tract from 1940. We're doing comparisons. And so it's a built-out story that faculty can share with students. But what we also offer are tools to help the faculty integrate this into their course. So if you want to use it as a lecture, you can use it as a lecture and we provide guidance. If you want to use it integrated into your LMS, you can integrate this into your LMS. So how would I do that? If I go to share, I can share this module as a link. I can put this embed code into my LMS, or if I wanted to, I could email it to somebody. But usually people either put the link in their LMS or their embed code in the LMS. And so you can integrate this module on concentric circle, on city development right into your course. And then from here as well, if you're faculty, you can request assessment questions that go along with that as well. We've built out 3 short assessment questions that go with each activity that we have. So here's another example, mapping regional health inequalities. So again, it's very social justice focused. It's looking at regional patterns in health inequality. It's looking at health data from 2017. It's comparing it to the total population using the ACS data on the right. And my computer is a bit slow today, but you can start to see here we're looking at low birth weights on the left and where that takes place the most and what the population is. And then you can compare that to population. Here we're looking at white alone. So it's giving us a sense of where there's a higher population of Black people and how that compares to low birth weights on the left. And so as a student, you can start to work through the data. As a professor, you could use this as a lecture starter at the beginning of class when you're talking about health and inequality. And they're focused really at the introductory level for students, at the undergraduate level. Also here, you can search by topic for what we have within the system. You can also search by length, how long they take to get through them, and what level we believe they are, beginner, intermediate, or advanced. We've also built some training modules in the same way. So these modules teach you how to use the system. And the last piece I want to show you are these data snags. These are sort of one issue that's current that we update every week. So again, as a faculty, you can start bringing these pieces of content into your class. Here's one. Remember what it was like to commute to work. And it's just a basic overview of one single map that can be brought into class as a discussion. And again, my computer's slow. There's my map. So that sort of brings us to the end of this overview about content. So what we're focused on right now, we have 175 modules focused on undergraduate subjects and topics. We're always expanding on these. And again, these can be used as is, or you can modify them as you see fit as well and bring them into your class. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Andy.
Yeah, I think this really shows you the breadth of the American Community Survey and the other data sets that we have, because it's very difficult once you go away from the Census Bureau, and I'm sure that Mark and JP and Bill would agree with me. Some of the other data sets are nowhere near as well documented or whatnot. And one of the things that we've tried to do, and we're continuing to do, is try to integrate some of these other data sets with the demographic data. For example, our plan with the election data is we're going to try to integrate demography with election data going all the way back, so you can see who supported who, kind of when in the history of the United States. It turns out that it's kind of a weird time series in terms of the election data. It comes from a variety of people, some of whom are not academics. The guy who's compiled the earliest election data did it just as kind of a hobby. He would get the election returns out of old newspapers. It's actually been archived at the American Antiquarian Society in Boston. And then ironically, the most recent election data, which is David Leap, David started archiving, and I mean, I know Michigan, Bill, I know ICPSR used to do election data, but the funniest thing is that Leap did this on the side because he thought there should be a place in the United States where you could get all of the national election data. And so for him, it's a side gig. His full-time job is he's a MIT trained master's level engineer, and he works with a company that develops parts for Apple. I mean, I kid you not. So he does it on the side. His stuff is used by virtually every media outlet because it's curated and it's it's decent. So one of the kind of struggles with data generally is when you go outside of kind of the census bubble, you find that what they call metadata and just the general documentation is nowhere near as good. And on that, I think I'll end, and maybe we can take some questions for any of the group. For Mark, for Bill, for me, for Jeff, for JP.
Well, thank you, Andy. This is a very, very useful and informative presentation. I think that, I want to go back to what I said at the beginning. This is usually a 3-hour in-person seminar, webinar that we hold near the PAA, often at the PAA hotel. Often we get a university kindly provides us access to a computer classroom where we can get people together and sort of work with them. And we can't do it this time. We've been for various reasons, it's sort of constrained. And of course, it's COVID time, and we're all doing things on these webinars, and we can't do that. But I do want to, urge you all to just try this stuff. If you haven't done it before, I mean, we couldn't go through and handhold and all of this stuff that we would normally do in our webinar, in our workshop that we would have at annual meeting. But it's all pretty easy to use. You just have to sort of, jump in and deal with it. All of us are interested in, getting back to you and working with you and trying to answer your questions and even take suggestions of things that we can do. I mean, we're all looking forward to the 2020 census coming out sometime this year in full bloom, and then an ACS that will be based on the census. I'm not quite sure when that's going to happen, but it will eventually. And so we'll have something equivalent to the old long form census that you can not only get the most recent information using stuff that Andy has put together, the stuff that Mark has put together, the PRB stuff we've done at SS Dan at Michigan, to sort of look at how things have really changed. When I started doing this at Michigan, there was only a census every 10 years. There wasn't an ACS, so we could get by, in 1997, still looking at 1990 census data because there wasn't enough stuff out there. But now we have the ACS every year. You can update this information, but still, keep it as part of your classroom module. Various of us here have gotten to various stages of, in the case of Social Explorer, they have all these complete modules that you can use with assessment tools and all of that sort of thing. At the other end of the extreme, what we do at SS Dan is you sort of have to do your own. We give you the data in easy to analyze format, but it's simple enough that you should be able to put something together for your class. And we do have some modules you could use as instructional tools. You can also submit modules that you've already developed with some of our data sets, and we'll be able to share them with other people, which we also have on our website. And of course, the PRB stuff is just super. This new introduction to population analysis is something I think is going to be widely used. And of course, the ACS user group with the big meeting coming up, virtual meeting coming up, is going to be helpful to everyone. I don't know, do any of you want to sort of add to what you've already said, or give some helpful advice to people, or how you might be able to engage them now that we're going to be sort of closing down in a few minutes? Oh, here's a question. Will you share?
Just to reiterate, this is Jeff. If anybody on the call is interested in a trial or using the product or giving it a try, and the school doesn't have access, you can reach out to us at support@socialexplorer.com, and we'll get you set up with a trial. And if you're an instructor, we will get you access to it as well so that you can use it for a few months also. So reach out to support@Social Explorer. We'll take care of you right away.
And I did see a question. This is being recorded. I'm not quite sure exactly how and when we're going to make this available, but we have everybody's email address, and we will send out something when we have it available, and probably post it as well on our various websites, or at least certainly on the SS Dan website, and we'll make it available through the others as well. Maybe PAA can also put out a note about the recording of this. So yes, we are recording this webinar, and you'll be able to share it, or sort of look at it more carefully, and maybe while you're trying to access these sites, these various websites and programs on your own, and do it a little bit more slowly. So anyway, thank you all for attending. I think pretty much we've covered what we wanted to, and please feel free to email us questions. You have our various affiliations, and you know where our websites are. Thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the rest of the PAA meeting.
Thank you.